It's time for another collaborative podcast that no one asked for. From the creators of Cases of Continuity, No New Friends, and Big Beautiful Dis, get ready for Creators United. And now, give it up for your hosts, Ryan, Dane, and Scott.
Hey, welcome everybody to Creators United with Big RJ. How are you doing?
I've never been called Big RJ. I don't know that I like being called Big RJ.
You like being called Big RJ
so, out of all the very many nicknames I have, that is one that I do not accept.
That is not okay. How about just RJ then? Is that an acceptable or Mags? Okay. And please welcome Mr. Scott Maffei to the show. How are you doing, Scott?
Hello
there. Very good, very good. No, Scott is not here. Scott is, I assume, still recovering from the hurricane. Obviously, I think everything is okay with him. And real quick before we go on, I do want to send out a special shout out, I guess, to everyone in Florida, because you guys looks like you did well with the hurricane, which is good. It was looking pretty rough there when it was coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. So I was glad to see it did not impact a lot of my personal friends. And then the ones that did get impacted, I hope you bounce back and recover, and I hope the damage was not so severe. Anyway, we've got a good episode for you guys planned. So in about 10 minutes real time, musician Walt Lafty from Silvertide is going to be joining us.
Oh, wow.
They have
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. You certainly didn't know about that booking before you came on the call, did you?
No, I don't know as much, man. I don't know much.
This is new news to you.
I know Disney history, and that's about it.
Yes, sir. So I've always said, for me, it goes number one favorite sport is football, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
you've got your Ravens, right?
Yeah, and then number two is actually the MLS. I follow the MLS heavily, much more than NBA and basketball and baseball even.
Really?
Yeah,
I would say, right. So college or professional football?
Oh, professional, much more. I have gotten into college like the last 2 years, much more than I have been, but yeah, professional.
Mm-hmm. I was also raised very much professional football.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say, especially since I play fantasy, professional football is probably number one. Was never a big fan of college football, but now I live in a big college football town, and you can't not get into college football when you live in a college football town. And so I am all in now on the college football train, and it's a fun time.
I'm also all in this year because two reasons. Michigan is terrible, so you gotta
Let's go.
You gotta love that.
And
then number two is
Jim Harbaugh's a fraud, cheater.
Yes, he is. And then the second, more important reason actually is that Penn State is ranked number 2, so we're actually doing well this year compared to other years. Dude, I'm getting into card collecting again. I used to have a massive football card addiction, and I still have all my old football cards from years ago. Like I have a Patrick Mahomes college card, right? So this was like really 2016, cool. 2017 era of players. And so dude, I because of him, I've started collecting again. And look at this. This is my
Yeah.
This is
you could say that he's Mahomes' boy. That's insane.
This for audio listeners, it's a massive bin of football cards. But yeah, this is a mix of football and Disney cards. Most of this right here is the Disney cards. But yeah, this is an insane hobby that Chris has gotten me into now. It's crazy.
Absolutely. That's really cool. I mean, I think it's fun for anyone to collect something. I mean, in the past, we previously talked about I collect national park stamps and stamps
Hmm.
from other like national heritage sites and places I've been to. And you collect these football cards, which are also insanely cool and a little more
Hmm.
physical too, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And then another thing about football that isn't like it's not physical is the fantasy football. And
Oh
we've
yeah.
touched on this a little bit here and there. We both
Mhm.
play fantasy. Um the only league that I'm in this year is the Diz Journey or not Diz not the Disneyverse.
Ooh, sent
Disneyverse League.
chills through me.
Fantasy football. I'm 6-1. Yeah,
Oh,
six
see,
and
my
one
work league, I
in
am
the
awful.
Disneyverse.
I have a grand total of 6 wide receivers.
Okay.
4 are either out or questionable currently.
Yeah.
The 2 that I'm left with play for the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. I'm having a great time with my
That's
lovely 2 wins.
yeah,
Not, ugh. Which is another reason I think it'd be fun to start up a fantasy hockey or basketball league because football's not treating me well.
football is insane with injuries this year. I mean, we've
It's
had
been awful.
thankfully Deshaun Watson go down this week alone. You know, one of my favorite things about sports is the sp- the like social media
Squirt.
team. the 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 social media teams of sports teams are insane. So the Celtics sports teams or sports team social media team is the best there is. Like they're undefeated in their posts, and baseball social media is so funny because it's such a long season. Halfway through the season, the social media teams just stop caring. What's even funnier is the other day when the Yankees beat the Guardians, right? Cleveland
Oh, don't
Guardians,
remind me.
formerly, right, the Cleveland Indians. You know,
Hmm.
they had to change their name. And this is what they tweeted. This is what they tweeted when beating the Guardians. Mind you, former Cleveland Indians. They tweeted a picture of them on the mound with the caption, "This is our land." Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that that has connotation to it that is not it's not good. Hey, there he is.
Hello.
What's up, Walt?
Oh,
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I noticed you're in your truck.
Yeah,
You put the little ones to bed, right? That's
yeah,
all
yeah,
taken care of.
yeah. Well, my wife's taking care of it, I should say.
Oh, okay, okay. Are
Normally,
your
normally I'd be up there and reading a book, but I'm
yeah?
here with you, fine gentlemen.
They're the more important business to attend to. Are your kids younger?
I have one that's younger. My son is 12. My daughter is 5.
Oh,
oh.
okay. Does your son like realize who his dad is yet, or does he not in the
No,
lock at all?
you know, I kind of intentionally kept it from him when he was younger.
Mm,
So much so that I wouldn't even play guitar around him in the house. But mainly because I grew up in a family with all 5 of my sisters play and sing music. My father is classically trained pianist, plays, probably 25 instruments for fun. And it's generation after generation after generation of really poor musicians. So I'd like my son to go into finance or something. So I
yeah, yeah,
tried
yeah.
to I tried to keep it from him. My daughter, however, is a different story. She kind of right from the jump, I think she's wired a little bit
Mm.
different and just, is goofy and wants to play guitar already at 5. And just having her watch Lizzie Halstorm from
Mm.
side stage as her first concert, I think really solidified it in her brain. She's like, I'm done for life. This is what I'm doing. I'm like, oh no, you're gonna be poor.
So, I mean, tell us a little bit about upbringing, I guess. What age were you when you like discovered that you could sing? And like
I
when
was a
did
late
you?
bloomer. I was a late bloomer with singing because my older sister, who is a librarian, she can sing really well, but she was a bit shy and reserved. So she wouldn't sing too much in public. She would do plays and things like this when really egged to do it. But for the most part, she was kind of, conservative with showcasing her abilities and talents, even though she worked really hard to be pretty good. And so we would walk to school every day, grade school together. I was 3 years younger than her, and she would have me sing harmonies to Home on the Range. She'd be home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard of the scourging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. And she would have me just pick up new harmonies over and over and over and over again. And what I didn't realize at the time, I wanted to be a drummer. Um, at the time, I didn't realize, I didn't take it for what it was, which was free ear training from someone who was an all Catholic chorus and had, would sing in Latin. you know, I was pretty blessed early on, and my whole house was very, very vocal growing up. It was a extravagant group of people. Just my dad playing piano or trumpet or something at any given point in the day. Someone upstairs, singing Celine Dion at the top of their lungs in the shower. It was a very, it's overwhelming. In fact, my wife being, for the most part, an only child, um, it's hard for her when we were first dating, she would come over and just feel overwhelmed by the energy in the room because everybody is on 11. Everybody is just tapping or singing or doing something. So yeah, I was around it pretty much early on. And like I said, I wanted to be a drummer. And where I grew up, if you wanted to play, there wasn't, back then we didn't have rock school or school of rock or any of these places. The internet was still at the point where, when I was 14 or 15, you had to log on to BBS boards if you wanted to communicate with people. So it wasn't like this like free for all exchange of information on YouTube where you could learn everything. You had to slow down records if you had that capability. Um, if not, you would just have to practice off sheet music or listen to something on repeat and try to mimic it as best you could. And I think that emphasis made it this verbal ear, kind of closer to what I guess would have been more oral tradition for the last thousands of years amongst most of humanity, just with a little bit of technology. So, I didn't realize that I was getting my vocal cords trained and my ears trained. And a lot of us kind of flocked at that point to, CYOs, Catholic youth groups, things like this, Christian youth groups, because there was a place to play and they would have a stage and you could rehearse in the basement. You'd play along with other like-minded kids. And then I met a man named Paul Jones when I was 14, who had a small recording studio in his basement, and that kind of changed everything for me. It was a whole different trajectory. He had me come over to play drums, and I think I started after we practiced a whole set of things and some of his original music. I was playing along with the bass player, who's a friend of his. Mind you, these guys are in their 40s at this point. I'm 14, and they're like, they're kind of like, all right, you're an okay drummer. And I wasn't really that great. I could hold a beat. I think I would just I practiced Ringo Starr's drum solo from Abbey Road nonstop. That was like, I think my biggest claim to fame back then at 14, Gung, 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 ticka, ticka, ding, 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 ticka, 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 ding, 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 ding. I thought that was like incredible,
Yeah.
And yeah, so he kind of took me under his wing because at the end of the practice, I started singing When the Levee Breaks while playing it on drums. And they all kind of looked at me and they're like, you can sing your butt off. Like, why aren't you singing? I was like, no, I can't sing. I play drums. And they said, well, not anymore. and that kind of changed everything. And the focus became on songwriting then and recording. And for 3 or 4 years, I didn't leave his basement. Every day after school, if I could, I was over there recording, over there writing. he was pretty hard on me early on. Any words that I wrote, he would turn them down, tell me to go home and rework them. I would rework it 1,000 times. He'd still turn me down. And I would just sing his songs, record his songs. And then over time, finally I'd written something and he was like, that's good. Let's record that. But the repetitive nature of recording my vocals in a basement with someone else playing producer, saying, this note could be better. You could hold it out longer here. It helped me so much and took me to another level that even today, I'm just so grateful that a guy like that would even consider to take time away from his wife and kids and his job just for the sake of loving music, just for the sake of doing something with other musicians. So that's pretty much my background up until I met Nick and Mark and that whole thing. Actually, I met Nick in Paul Jones's basement. And he practiced with us for one night and he looked at me and said, I'm going to be in a band with you, and left. And I didn't see him again for a year and a half.
Wow.
And then Mark and I went to an open mic night and played, and another friend said, I'm hosting another one in Ben Salem. And we walked in and it was what would become Silvertide. It was Kevin Franklin drums, guy named Chris Smith on bass, and Nick Perry on guitar. And we had to flop our set with them because they were, 16, 15, and we were 18, just turned 18. We were just about to graduate high school. And we had to flip our schedule around or the set around so that they could go on us first at the open mic night or something of that effect. And we ended up just kind of shaking hands, and he remembered me and I remembered him, and said, why don't you come over and practice in my parents' basement next week? And then it kind of just went from there on its own thing.
So I was reading online that your band was originally named Vertigo, I think I saw.
Yeah.
So how did you start with that name? And then how did the name develop into Silvertide, like today?
I love your background, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's pretty amazing. So we didn't actually come up with the name. A friend of Nick's came up with the name. We had a hard time coming up with a name, like every band does. And we came up with Vertigo, and then we got a cease and desist letter from a band that was from the 60s or something that was named Vertigo. And we're like, oh, we're not allowed to do that. So we were kind of going back and forth about names, and Nick was in Ocean City with his family. They've been going there for, since his early childhood at that point. And a friend of his was down there, and they were all kind of hanging out near the beach or the boardwalk late at night, and the moon was reflecting off the water, and she said, oh, look, it's a silver tide. And he was like, what's that? And she's like, it's a silver. That's when the moon reflects off the water. It's a distorted image. And he was like, huh. And he kind of went home and, called me up and said, what do you think of this? I'm like, better than what we got, which is friggin' nothing. So let's go from there. And that's where it kind of went. Everybody said, yeah, that sounds cool. And we like the imagery of it because, in the early 2000s, it was a really weird spot music wise, because you had like this hippie kind of culture stuff, like the Dave Matthews Band kind of like, thing going on, jam bands, we all had like hemp necklaces and stuff. And me and Mark, the rhythm guitar player, we both had old 70s hippie buses that we drove around in. With the pop top camper, where you cook your own meal and crash wherever you were. We would pop the top in front of a friend's house at a party and just fall asleep in there. And we also had the rock side. And I think that the logo and the image and the name for us ended up being a perfect thing, because it kind of married the two together. It had some hard edges to it for some reason, but it had the hippie vibe, and that was kind of what we were at that point.
It's awesome.
Can't take credit for it.
Yeah. I didn't know if Ryan was gonna.
We can take the
ask
next. We can go
anything.
back and forth on the questions unless we have
Okay.
ones that directly relate. So
Okay. Usually we're on the same brainwave here, but I guess not tonight. So, I did want, since Silvertide is going to be doing a reunion show at the TLA in December, pretty soon actually. Um,
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about um, Silvertide and your history with like the downtown Philly music scene a little bit. Like, tell me some stories a little bit about coming up on that scene.
We were young and very naive, and we did not know that other bands just talk trash on everybody. It wasn't something we were comfortable with, and so we kind of like made friends with everybody, and we would think that that was just normal. But we soon found out within like 3 months that people were kind of two-faced and kind of shitty. And we were lucky to have found a core group of different bands like Pawn Shop Roses and Pepper's Ghosts, um, even Town Hall, who were way better than all of us combined. But they were at least nice to us, you know. And we were young, and we were kind of figuring out who we were, where we fit in. We were writing original music. Um, it was Love Syndicate. They were another one. They were really great. And so we kind of got this core thing with like, and we ended up hanging out with Pepper's Ghosts a lot. And Montesano Brothers, are, you know, we ended up just kind of chilling with them all the time. And if we like played the TLA together, we would have a joint party at the back then. I think it was the Adams Mark Hotel. We'd just like rent out like the suite at the top floor and just invite everybody there. Eventually we got a band house in Lower Gwynedd, and I think one night I was drunk on stage and said, a party's up at this address at Lower Gwynedd, and we had like 300 people parking their cars in our lawn. It looked like Dazed and Confused. I'm sure our landlords were really appreciative of what we did to the lawn with a concert worth of a small concert worth of cars parked on it, but whatever. It was a bad decision that ended up being a lot of fun, which is pretty much youth in general.
Yeah.
Um, one of the I think the most, it was a blessing in disguise, but at the time it felt really shitty. Can I curse on here? Is that
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
I don't know. People have rules, you know.
No, we say fuck all the time. It's just on
I was
Spotify.
gonna say
So.
potty mouth, you know, it used to be like biscuits, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, um, so we were playing at the Abilene. I don't even remember who the band was at this point, but I remember going up to the bathroom and, you know, I had to take a shit, and I go into the one handicap stall, and a group of guys came in, and they were basically just talking trash, and they're just like, oh, Silvertide, the fucking guys blow, you know, and they're like, oh, we could blow them up, like whatever. It was just dumb, stupid shit that I just was not used to. And as tiny as you know, I'm only 6 foot tall. I don't have a big frame, but I get really angry really quick. At least I did when I was younger. I was very quick to anger, and my whole mood just changed, and I kind of like flushed the toilet, you know, and went out to wash my hands. They all kind of looked like, oh fuck. And I just stood there and washed my hands really slow, grabbed one towel at a time, wiped it, threw it in the trash can, and I was just like, have a great one, and walked away. And I felt like that was the beginning for me of understanding to kind of keep my cards a little bit close to my chest, because the Philly scene is a two-edged sword. There is a lot of wonderful camaraderie and a lot of great musicians that you can learn from, that um, you can write with, you can do all types of great stuff with. But there's also shitty people, just like there is in any industry and any job site. You're going to have people that gossip. You're going to have people that are just honestly just immature. That's really what it comes down to. They haven't learned how to just be grateful and just kind of chill and just be decent people yet. And everybody gets there. I would hope everybody gets there eventually. But at the time, it was very jarring for me, and I felt like I was like back in grade school or something. Um, but again, it was an important lesson learned, and it kind of taught me over time that the people that were great people, I tried to keep them particularly close to me, and I felt a little bit more loose and comfortable around them. And I started to become a little bit more separated in who I would allow into my inner circle. And that's everybody learns that lesson at some point. For me, it was 18 to 19 years old in the Philly circuit.
Yeah.
Now, I do
Yeah.
have a question about something. It's a little bit different. So we've talked about on Creators United, the show before. I'm a big movie fan, and I thought it was really cool that y'all have actually been featured in a movie before, in Lady in the Water by M. Night Shyamalan. I was love
Shyamalan.
show. I have never been able to pronounce that guy's last name.
It's Shyamalan.
I would love to know what that
You gotta
experience was
watch
like,
out.
though.
They'll accuse you of being right wing. Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Our next question for you, Walt. Who are you voting for in the upcoming election? No, I'm kidding.
I'm not trying to burn anybody's houses down in this one.
I'm kidding.
Yep, I know.
To know what that was like, though, about like how did they
works.
approach you?
That's like your sex life. You should just keep it to yourself, you know. It's just I don't want to hear about it. It's none of my business.
Yeah, what's your religious
I want to go
beliefs?
back to that world one day, and nobody talked about it at all. But yeah, sorry. What was the
Oh
question?
yeah, I was curious how they approached you to have your music in the movie, and if there was a specific process that you had to go through for that.
No, we were asked by their music director.
Oh, okay.
They reached out to us. I think M. Night wanted a local band. And looking back, he really should have picked the War on Drugs because they would have probably done, in my opinion, a pretty amazing job at a Dylan track. Because at that time, I wasn't really into Dylan, and that changed after that experience. But it was kind of hard for me to get into his vocals. And I remember at one point, after recording the song, like M. Night coming into Studio 4 and Contra Hawken and sitting down and going like, what is this song about to you? And I was like, I have no clue. We just, you called us a week ago. Here I am, type of thing. And, and he expressed his, I don't know if it's opinion or fact, about the song at the time, and kind of got me thinking a little bit differently, went and recut some things. And I was happy with the result. Like I said, we weren't trying to get it. It just kind of landed to us at that point. And, a lot of stuff back then happened that way. We were like the buzz band at that point in Philly. So we had that at this time, we had already signed a record deal. We were on the road for probably a year, maybe longer. So a lot of stuff would land on our lap because we were kind of climbing in that direction. So we weren't as big as the big guys, but we were noticeable enough that opportunities like that would luckily kind of land on our lap. And we had zero control over it. We luckily just rode the wave as it came in. We said yes to almost anything. Even if it didn't feel right at the time, we would just go, what's the worst that could happen? Just say yes to it. Don't think about it too much. Even we laughed. We got an opportunity to do some shows with Def Leppard, and one of the guys said, "You're like, is this right for us? Is this a right fit for us? Do we really want to be thrown in with bands that are more from the '80s and stuff?" Because we had already toured with Motley Crue, we had already toured with Alice Cooper, we had already toured with Van Halen, and it just seemed like we kept getting pigeonholed in these certain things that was like kind of retro rock or whatever you want to call it. Even in Europe, we play with The Darkness or whatever, and we just didn't understand. And then we went and played for Def Leppard, and it was like such a mixture of the audience. It was like old and young, girl, guy, everything in between. And I was really astonished. And we ended up selling more merch in one of those shows than we did for an entire tour with like Shinedown early on, and it was an important lesson. And once again, you don't know what's good for you type of thing. Just try everything and just roll with it. I'm kind of doing a detour there, but
That's all fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned something that I wanted to bring up is you're touring with other bands because you toured like you did a Velvet Revolver tour, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I did the Van Halen tour, which is how I found out about you because I'm gonna sound really young, but my dad went to see the Van Halen reunion tour, and that's how he found out about you, and now that's how I found out about you,
Oh wow.
you guys. So do you have any? I
Your
mean,
dad has your dad has excellent taste in music, might I add.
absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, let's start with the Van Halen tour. I mean, that's such an interesting tour, not only for the history of that band, but the history with you guys. So, I mean, do you have any stories? Did you have any interaction with Eddie or
Too many.
Sammy?
And Sammy is a sweetheart.
uh,
He's a sweetheart. He literally handed me his per diem one day. It was like $175 per diem. He just like threw it to me. He's like, go get some clothes or something, like you look a fucking mess. Um, and I'm just like, I'm gonna buy one pair of thrift store pants and pocket this for the rest of the tour to eat off of. Thank you, sir.
yeah,
Eddie was just like, I don't know, he was great, but he was also a mess. Like he was
yeah,
just like drunk a lot, and yeah, he was a bit much after a while. Initially, we're like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. But it's like anything, you hang out with that drunk guy at the bar a little bit too much, and it goes from fun and entertaining to, all right, why are you putting out your cigarette on our lunch meet in the green room? Like what are you doing, man? It's not even like it's not cool at that point. It's just a little bit crazy, but he was going through some stuff. I'd heard he just got, some cancer cut out of his tongue. Um, and I don't know all the health things that were going on behind that, but obviously he wasn't in a great place.
sure.
And for while it lasted, it was really fun. The rest of the guys were really wonderful. Alex was kind of reserved and kind of kept to himself. Sammy and Michael Anthony literally invited us during the guitar solo part of the Van Halen set. They had like a bar built under stage. So we would just go do shots of tequila with Sammy like every night. I was like, I'm gonna become such a massive alcoholic by the end of this tour. I already was drinking a lot. You guys just upped it a notch. But Sammy is one of those guys that he wears it well. Like he's just such a genuine, warm person who just wants everybody to have fun. And it was such an inviting atmosphere. And it's funny to me now because I got to play with Diamond Dave.
Mm.
He was doing like a solo night in Jersey, and years later, Silvertide opened up for him, and he stole my pizza, and I'll never forgive him for it. We ordered pizza, and he ordered pizza, and our pizza came from our place first, and he walked into our dressing room, picked it up, and said, "This is mine," and walked out. And I was like, "You son of a
He
bitch!
couldn't wait for the delivery to arrive.
You stole my pizza!" So, Dave, if you ever see this, I want my pizza back.
They really rather.
We didn't even get his pizza.
That's the
Did you
worst.
order another one, or did you just go
No, I
pizzaless?
just got something else. Like I got something else. It's like this is obviously pizza wasn't on the menu for night for me. It was on it for Diamond Dave.
I guess so. Was that at
Son
the
of a
point where
bitch.
he was doing that like country album, or was that when he was
I don't
back to
even
his rock
know.
stuff?
I think it was the rock stuff. It was
Okay.
I forget the exact venue in Jersey, but it was a nice venue. It probably fit 400 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, a lot of stuff was a blur at that point because there was a certain point where we were on the road. We were on the road. We went out on the road to promote Show and Tell on our EP before it had come out, and we didn't come off until Shinedown had released 3 albums, and we were still on the road for our first record. And I look back on that now, and I think, God, whose dumb idea was that? You know, we could have just gone home, made another record, put it out, toured again. We could have kept doing the process, but Um, yeah, it was like 3 Shinedown records or something like that, and we were just out that whole time. And so it became this like dark den of iniquity where all we did was drink like fish and act like idiots. I think I chased a guy with a sword in Alabama. Who does that? Like I obviously wasn't in a good mental space at that point.
Didn't you like
And
dress
and
up
I
in a
and
lobster
I
outfit or something on
oh, I
on
mean that
your
was
show?
I was totally fine for that. That was a decision. That was a creative decision. So the lobster outfit was I was walking past the street I grew up on, or driving past the street I grew up on, and they were having a yard sale at this house. And here this guy he had a movie about fast food restaurants going to war, like the mob. Like Ronald McDonald was like a mafia guy, and like Grimace was like a hitman or something. I never, it was ridiculous. But it was a real produced movie and had all these amazing costumes that they were selling at like nothing. I think I paid $20 for the lobster outfit. And he was supposed to be, I guess, the Red Lobster logo or something. It had like it
Yeah.
had like the crab arms held up by fishing lines. So he picked up one. It was like, and they were well made. These were like Hollywood made quality costumes. And I wore it on stage at the TLA. I was on some stuff that night.
Wait,
Yeah,
is that gonna make a comeback in the reunion?
that is gone. We actually, when we moved to LA,
Oh,
we this was horrible. We had left our house in Lower Gwinnett. It was owned by the Friends, like Quakers.
uh,
They rented the house to us, and we thought it would be funny to put a bicycle on a tree, like really high up in a tree. Like you would need like a crane to get it out. I don't even know how the hell we got it up there. We put the lobster suit and a mannequin looking like they were fucking inside of the refrigerator and just left it there for them. Like who does that? We thought it was funny at the time. Now I'm like, why did we do it to those poor people? And somebody had to like come there and clean that up, and was utterly confused. Like, what kind of weird eyes wide shut shit was going on in this house? Why do they have a mannequin and a lobster suit and tree and a bicycle, and what is going on here?
oh my God. I was trying to find that movie quickly. All that's coming up is the animated movie Food Fight. Oh man.
No, the cover had Ronald McDonald holding like a Springfield 1911, and it looked like almost like the Godfather cover. Like half of it was black and white, and the other half was like in color. I have to find it one day because it was ridiculous, and we did watch it at some point, I believe, because the guy like gave me the movie with the purchase. It was like a buy one get one free at a yard sale.
You get to get the film as well. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
like I only had like 20 or 30 bucks on me for the lobster suit, but I really wanted the Hamburglar outfit too, but he just like wouldn't let it go. And I was like, he's like, dude, these things cost me like a lot to make. And I was like, oh man.
Oh,
I feel like
I'm really hoping.
I feel like I'm buying goods from a heroin addict, It's like you're happy for the deal, but you feel guilty at their life
Yeah.
choices.
I can only imagine you in the in the garage sale, like, hey, you got the Hamburglar? You got two
Yeah,
for one?
dude, he had it all set up on like tables and shit. It was wild. It was wild.
God,
And I thought it was such like an isolated thing when I wore it on stage for like, I think I walked out on stage with it on, or walked out at the end of the set with it on, and it was like hilarious. And I just, stage dove and did the whole thing. And that I've had that brought up more times than probably any creative decision I've ever done in my life. I was like, see, man, I should have been in the Flaming Lips.
Yeah. What about touring with Velvet Revolver? What was that like?
That was intense. They were obviously, those guys are incredible and incredible people. Scott Weiland was more quiet and just kind of stuck to himself, but it became like a weird thing where like he wouldn't let me upstage him. So like by the end of the tour, it got crazy. Like I dove off a theater balcony onto the audience, and the next night he dove off the second balcony. So it just kept getting higher and higher and more ridiculous until one day he jumped off like the fourth balcony at a theater. And I was like, I'm not on heroin, you win. Like, you win, man. This is why you're the best. Hats off to you, bud. It was a really intense tour. It was a lot of fun. I got to sneak a bottle of Jack in for Slash, which was fun because people were like, I guess somebody was sober and they didn't want to see it in the dressing room. So he was like, but just He's like, I'm not, but these guys are. You can just hide it in your room for me so they don't, piss me off. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, not many people can say they did stuff like that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Tell us about the Silvertide reunion. How did that come about?
Oh, we had all talked independently over the years, and a lot of burnt bridges were rebuilt.
Mm.
And I think it just came down to, I lived across the street from Mark Melchior for a decade after everything fell apart. We bought houses that faced each other's. We had, we were really good friends going into it, and then not speaking going out of it. And it took a while. And I think we were both at a Ryan Adams concert. We both kind of saw each other and we were like, oh, this is dumb. Let's talk. Um, And same thing with everybody. Like, I kind of spoke with everybody independently. Some other guys didn't speak. I had done bands with different guys. I put out a record with Mark called The Like Magnets. I put out it was called Amazing Pulsar was the name of the record. And I had done stuff with Nick under Sinai. I had done Automatic Fire with Brian Weaver. So I think the only guy I didn't do a project with was Kevin, and I think it had more to do with the fact that at the time he had already had a bunch of kids and moved an hour away, and he was busy. He had a company that he was running, and I don't think he could just like step aside at that point to just go play in a rock band.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody was just kind of talking back and forth over time, and I think somebody posted like a picture of everybody online, and it was like it just like blew up, and we all kind of were like, we're fucking idiots. Like, why are we not even occasionally doing this right now? If a lot of people actually really like the record,
Yeah.
so why aren't we just, and I understand it's a different time. Like, we might not be able to like tour heavily off of something like this at this point. Approaching 20 years since it's been released. But we have a core audience that kind of saw us play back then, and then we had this whole weird younger generation that got into it after the fact. And like, I was getting people writing me from like South America and stuff. Like, I heard your band on the radio, and I was like, what? Like, we've never even played Brazil, or we've never even played half of these places. Got like when we played the MMRBQ, we had guys flew in from Sweden, people flew in from Japan. I mean, it's wild to me and humbling that someone would spend their time, their money, resources, energy to fly, you know, whatever, 6, 7, 8 hours, 14 hours in the case of Japan, all this time and dedicate all this money to come see us, this 5-piece band from Philly that released a record 20 years ago. It's wild to me, and still is, and incredibly moving that even still it's growing somehow on its own without us doing anything. I also think that back then, our live shows, I used to jokingly say we were a punk rock band masquerading as a classic rock band. And I hold true to that because we weren't the tightest musicians. We're a lot better now, but it had an energy to it. It had a rawness to it. And in particular, because of the way that I was raised, I really enjoyed and still do enjoy when things don't go as planned. So Nick is very much like a meticulous, he practices, he plans, all that stuff. I'm the opposite. I like when I take a cymbal stand and I cut your guitar cord in half with the cymbal, 2 minutes into the set, and it just fucks up and derails everything, and you hit a wrong note. And I don't know why I love that energy. It's so human. It's so mistake ridden. And it's like an art form of like, how do you make it a show that people can rely on for enjoyment will give, has pieces that are similar from night to night, but how do you make it new every single night? And some guys were great at practicing a script and repeating that script night after night after night. I've seen guys that masterfully pull this off. I was never one of them. I always felt disingenuous. I always felt like if I were doing something like that, it would not be true to myself at all. I needed it to be raw. I needed it to be it to the point where it's like a train derailing. Like, to me, that is the thrill of it all. At any moment, all of this could explode, At any moment, the sun could explode above us and rip everything apart on planet Earth within seconds, and that would be it. And we go on living as if that's not the case, and that each second is not unique and moves on to the next. And I think that with a Silvertide show, the thing that I forgot the most was how fun that was to live in that world, how fun that was to kind of paint on stage just a raw energy with no real plan. I don't go out there with an idea of what I'm going to do 99% of the time. I walk out and I just start running around. And there's something fun, and one day I might not be able to do that. Like I jumped off of a speaker, like it was like a double speaker cab at the MMR show. And afterwards, everybody came up to me and they're like, you're 43 now. Should you really be jumping off of, something that's like, 12 feet in the air with cowboy boots on? And I'm like, well, I didn't feel anything. So, it seems fine. I'm going to keep doing it until it's not fine. If, like, aren't you afraid you're going to break your leg? Well, yeah, but not really. If I break my leg, it'll just make it more interesting to me. Then I got to hobble around on stage. I'll only make right-hand turns.
Yeah.
I know I'm an idiot. It's what it is. But it's, you got to be true to you.
Yeah. Is there any plans for any new music?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a song that actually we already recorded the music to it, and I've changed the words about 5 times. I'm almost done. That one's going to be called King or King Wannabe. I'm not sure exactly how that'll go, but I already know what I want to write it about. I've already written versions of it. I'm just not happy with the way that it's going on certain stuff. And to be honest, I've been a little lazy with it. So I get caught up in, like the last week, we just had a lot going on in my family, and that became a priority. And I think I picked up my pen. Technically, I always write with pencils, but picked up my pencil and kind of worked on it for about 30 minutes. But I've gotten to a point now in my life where I did these things called Saturday night songwrites, where I would drink a bottle of Manischewitz and try and write a song in 2 hours. I would hum all these melodies, during the week into my phone. And then at the end of the week on a Saturday, I would pull one out and go, this is the one that's sticking out to me. And then I would write the song. And I made such a habit of it over years and years and years that it's really, for me, just about finding the time to sit down and write it, and it's done. That's it. I don't really believe in writer's block. I don't believe in it's all about discipline. That's all. So right now I haven't had the time to wholeheartedly focus on it. So why bother until I'm ready to sit down and do it? As dumb as that sounds.
Now, do you think there will ever be a follow-up to Show and Tell, or do you think it's just going to be singles?
That I don't know. I think a lot of it is going to be to just see how this goes naturally without putting much pressure on things. I don't want it to be a thing where it becomes a job again, where it starts to get old habits start to pour in and people start to get in fist fights and my bass player sitting in jail again for a night. Like, I don't want to deal with that. I dealt with it once before. Nobody should be swinging at anybody. I understand at a certain point there's tension, and the tension is going to be important to the creative process, but there's a point of no return, and it needs to happen casually. It needs to happen where everyone wants to be there, because it's the only way that we work. You know, it's okay to disagree on parts. It's okay to fight for what you believe in a song, or if you think something sucks or doesn't feel good, say so. And we're big boys now, and I think that you know some of the guys would get. See, I grew up in a large family, so the insecurity thing didn't really bother me in the songwriting practice because I had put in so much time. If they didn't like something that I wrote, they would say it. If they expressed it cleanly, I just wouldn't give a shit. But there, you know, some of the guys would get very defensive. You know, they would think that you're attacking them and not the part. But at the end of the day, it's remembering that the song is what wins. What's important, what makes the song the best. And yes, this comes down to opinion, but not always. Sometimes there's, you know, everybody will turn around and go, that just feels good. That just feels right. And opinion gets tossed out because all five just immediately are in lock and step. And that's the best part. That's when we hit things the way that they should be. So, you know, that we had disagreements on Show and Tell. I hate the song You Want It All, for example. I did not want that song to be included on the record. Record label insisted, and I haven't played it live since. You know, disagreement.
So out of curiosity, as you kind of look back at the songs that y'all have, you know, performed as the band and kind of written and released, are there any songs that stick out to you as being the most important or significant to you?
Nothing Stays, though it didn't seem it at the time. Nothing Stays was the first song that we wrote together as a band, where everything, it wasn't just me bringing in parts or you know, a meats and potatoes with chords and a chorus, or Mark coming in with something, you know, or Nick or Kevin coming in with a riff. It was, we all wrote it in a basement together in real time, and we all kind of stood there and went, I guess we're a band now. It has everything in it that I think represents Silvertide. It has some intimacy to it. It has raw energy to it. It has some great guitar playing in it. Has some singing. It has some screaming. And embodies everything. Another song I would say was on the Japanese release, which was Adult Child. I love that song so much. And I think from an energy standpoint, I really grew to appreciate SFC.
Oh, that's a great song.
I immediately was like, when we were coming up with the set list for the MMRQ, I was like SFC, like yelling it out like a child in the back, you know. And then luckily everyone loves that song in the band, but it just, there's something about that song that I just love. And you know, I do this whole nod to John Lennon in that song, which I'm glad that they let me do it, you know, and everybody didn't in the band being like, oh, because I like paraphrased Working Class Hero when he says, keep you doped with religion and sex and TV. And I say, you know, they feed you religion and sex and TV or something like that. And to You're So Fucking Crazy, you know, and all that song to me lyrically stemmed off of the live version of Lennon's Working Class Hero. So I really wanted to work that in because I just love the way that he said, to You're So Fucking Crazy, you're so full of fear. And it was like the way he said that line to me in the live version. When I think Kevin came up with the rhythm for that, I was like, oh, I know what I can do here. And growing up a big Beatles fan, I thought there's a way that I can add this in. And you would never think that hearing the song because it's so aggressive, until you think back on songs like Helter Skelter, which is, you know, that song could be a metal song, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just so energetic and so raw. I saw a cover band called the Paperback Writers do that, and they did it in such an aggressive manner, and I was like, holy shit. And they're just like they're a Beatles tribute band, but the way they played it was like, I could imagine if the Beatles were to travel back in time with that song and play it like they were playing in Germany. When they were like just living in Germany and playing, it was like, it just has this energy to it, this rawness to it, that guitar tone. Yeah, it's just wild.
That's a great song. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I don't want to keep you much longer here, but before you go, we need to talk about the solo record that you just released, which is kind of getting little bit buried by the reunion, but tell us a little bit about the solo music.
I'm trying to see if I have this paper here. No, I'm trying to organize everything. I'm trying to figure out when the. Oh, it's not in here. Oh well, it's not in there. Well, so the solo record, I had a collection of songs. I was going to go make a record up at my father-in-law's place in the Poconos a couple of years ago, and I called my dear friend, longtime producer David Ivory, and I was asking him advice on microphones and stuff because I was going to do it like Nebraska style, like Bruce Springsteen,
Yeah.
like a tape deck recorder, type of thing, where it's like that only can fit 8 tracks on it, and he was just like, just send me the songs. Like, don't waste your time going up there and playing producer. Like, you should just focus on songs. You're good at that. All right. So I sent him the songs, and he goes, Bud, these songs aren't done. I said, I know, man. I know they're not done. That's not the point. And he said, I think it is. So he said, come on up. He went up, and he's got this little analog room. It's like an old cabin on his property. It's just a small building with a fireplace and a bunch of analog gear, tape reels, and we just sat and worked on it together and had some fun. And then we went into his bigger room on his property, Dylan Studios, and then after that, he runs the recording arts program at Montgomery County Community College, and they have built up this amazing center at the college. It's fascinating what they have. They have, awesome SSL. They have Dolby Atmos, mixing there. So he then transferred some of the stuff over there and, do some mixing and stuff and some overdubs. And it's ended up just becoming this 4-year long thing that we did in Stolen Moments. A lot of the songs I had written kind of years before, but they were pieced together a little bit later on and completed. A lot of the stuff, I don't write bridges until I have to record something. Because to me, I'm not going to waste my time working on a song that's not worthy. If the chorus and the verse doesn't hook you, me writing some clever bridge is not going to suddenly sell it. So I've just gotten in the habit of, I will write a lot of stuff, far too much stuff. And then when I go to record, I'll go, all right, these 13 are the main contenders. And now we're going to finish the bridges. Or if I'm doing it by myself, now I'm going to finish the bridges. And yeah, I'm happy with it. It was fun. It was a different type of record for me. Even when I went in, I was going to use my same old friends, and on playing for everything. And David was like, look, like, you've done tons of stuff with all of them. Let me pull in Chuck Treese. Let me pull in Mike Kelly and Shell and, Damon Bennett, Dizzy Fingers on keys, Rick Haas on some electric guitars. So, I had different guys that I knew through the Philly scene, but I didn't work with them until that point. So that was a lot of fun. And what was a challenge was at the beginning of the record, I was an okay guitar player, but by the end I became a lot better and a lot more competent because David just allowed me to have the space and time to focus on that. Because I always had guys like Nick where I didn't have to be great. I would just come in with a song idea and they would take it from there. One of my favorite, which I saved for last, was a song called Friend, which is a song about watching someone kind of go through phases of an addiction. It could be alcohol, whatever, but in this case, it is what it is. And watching that person essentially have a friendship with alcohol or with drugs, over time, the thing that they are chasing becomes more powerful than their own being. And now that one is in control and doing all the fucking talking and driving. That song was recorded live in the studio, one take. Drums were in a separate room. I'm playing fingerstyle guitar, doing kind of like a twist on the Travis style picking thing while singing it, which was new for me. I'd never done both at the same time while tracking. And Mike Kelly was on upright. and we just did it once. It's not incredibly clean. There are mistakes in it. I'm certain of it. Even the way that I'm singing it is not totally accurate, but that's how I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be raw like that and just kind of capture a moment. It was supposed to be an intimate song on the record that just showcased what things sound like in their purest form at that point in time. That's it. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the songwriting. And for me, songwriting has always been an exorcism, a way to get all the demons out, a way to get all the ghost out. And yeah. Tarsdale is also the neighborhood my parents moved to when I was about 14. And it's a section of Philadelphia, but it felt more like the suburbs. And a lot of changes happened in my life from that point. So I thought it was good. And I'm trying to do it as like almost like a Star Wars thing in my life. So this record is in the past. The next record will be in the present. And then the third one will be in the future, just future thoughts. And like the next record, the name for it is Victoria with an exclamation point at the end. But that's how I start now. I come up with the record name first, what I want to do with it, and then I write backwards.
Yeah. Well, Victoria's a beautiful name. That's the name of my girlfriend, so that's a beautiful name.
Nice. Nice.
Well, Walt, it's 10 o'clock. I don't want to keep you here. I thank you for coming on. And we're actually all big Star Wars fans here. So the last question I got is favorite Star Wars movie. Mags, we'll start with you.
Oh, no question for me. Empire Strikes Back. Absolutely.
Ooh.
Okay. Walt, how about you?
I would have to say Empire Strikes Back, but I'm a big fan of Rogue One.
Oh, nice.
Good one.
Rogue One's great.
Yeah. Best of the Disney, I would say, easily.
Without a doubt.
Easily.
Oh, yeah, hands down.
I'm going to break the chain here. I'm going New Hope. Always loved it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, always
New Hope's great.
It's classic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys like any of the animated stuff, but I'm a massive Clone Wars and Rebels fan.
Ooh.
Like massive. Like,
Yeah.
I just saw they released a ghost Christmas tree ornament, and immediately sent it to my wife. I was like, "Yeah, we're getting this." So
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I might need to put that on my list now too.
Look, my hat right now, Star Wars.
Oh, that's
there
great.
There it is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I have like 10 of them, and they're just all different Star Wars stuff. It's ridiculous.
Have you been to Galaxy's Edge?
I have not.
Oh man, you're missing.
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Gotta...
I'm waiting when I can afford it to take my kids there, and my son and I will be. I mean, I've turned my daughter into a massive Star Wars fan, but I'm dying to get down there. I'm gonna be like a kid in a candy store. I know it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. When you see the Millennium Falcon for the first time, it's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Oh, everybody says that. Like even tonight, I'm listening to an audiobook, The Glass Abyss, which is about Mace Windu. Just came out. So I love the expanded universe stuff, and I think I've read like 170 of the books. There's something wrong with my brain, but autism before they realized what autism was.
Yeah,
I've never focus on Star Wars.
I've never gotten into the books for some reason. I do like the animated series. I've watched some of it, not all of it, but most of it, most of Clone Wars. But I've never have gotten into the books for some reason. I don't know why. It's always the movies and shows for me.
They're fantastic. I just happen to love reading, and I read a lot, no matter what. Like I was flipping between Star Wars and Italo Calvino. Like that the two of them should not even be in the same goddamn sentence, but there it is. Yeah, there it is. And my wife makes fun of me because she's an English, teacher with 3 masters. And she's like, I don't know how the hell you can flip between like, some of the greatest writers of all time and Star Wars. And I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And dude, if you're not into the books, the audiobooks are spectacular, because the Star Wars audiobooks, I tell people all the time, is a lot more akin to a radio show from like back in the day, like what evil lurks in the hearts of men, the shadow knows, and they have like sound effects and stuff. It's very much akin to this idea of the old school radio shows, like the Orson Welles stuff. You know, it's cool. Total cool sound effects. Total. They have music going on. They have talking and characters when the guys are in cafes and shit. It's pretty cool
Awesome.
in like the nerdiest way possible.
Awesome. Well, you can find Walt on Instagram at Walt_Lafty, Walt Lafty on Facebook, and silvertideband.com. And tickets are through Ticketmaster for the reunion if you find yourself in Philadelphia on, what is it, December 20th?
December 20th. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I will be there. I will be there. So
Nice.
I have to remember that it's December 20th and not the 21st, because for some
It was
reason.
supposed to be the 21st, but it got changed to the 20th before we even posted.
Okay. Apparently I must have known that somehow.
You're on that wavelength. That's why
Yeah.
that's why you two aren't on the wavelength. You're on that wavelength.
I'm on the Silvertide wavelength.
Yep.
All right. Well, Walt, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you next time. And Scott,
We
we
miss
love
you.